Best Mounjaro maintenance dose. I've got a new article for you today that is going to blow your mind. At least it did for me. It just got released today, and I'm going to link this article, cite my source, down in the description link below. It was released today from The Atlantic on May 22nd, 2024. And the article was written by Sarah Zhang. That's who my source is. And again, I will link the direct link to this article so you can read it for yourself. I'm going to skip over to near the end because talking about the best Mounjaro maintenance dose, the article is actually going through and talking about how do you have an off-ramp for Ozempic, meaning the best Ozempic maintenance dose, which you could then conceivably say the best WEGOVY maintenance dose. They're specifically talking about a semaglutide there. I'm bouncing it over to Mounjaro and Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND. Same thing, different FDA approvals, like how Ozempic and WEGOVY are the same thing, different FDA approvals. But within the GLP-1 medication ball of wax, this information was incredibly helpful for me. And if we haven't met, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the Countess of Shopping. I've been on a GLP-1 medication now for the last 16 plus months, lost 88 whopping pounds, completely changed my life from being morbidly, severely obese now to just overweight. Woo! And I'm on my 100-pound weight loss journey to hopefully not be overweight and just be a healthy weight range. But going through this article, I found it absolutely fascinating from The Atlantic. And doctors are now discovering that some patients can maintain the weight they lost on lower or less frequent doses of GLP-1 drugs. For the first time in our career, we're lowering the doses of medicines. And that was a quote from, let me go back and pull the gentleman's name, Louis Aron, an obesity medicine doctor from Weill Cornell Medicine. And this particular person, Louis Aron, did a long-term data on older drugs, and he was saying they're pretty sparse about like, okay, the long-term treatment. And many of you and me, and particularly the Count, my husband, has been very adamant about what is the off-ramp for people getting off these medications. You've got all these people pumped on GLP-1 medications, but there is a percentage of people who may not be on these long-term. Now, I will be. My choice, as of the information I have right now, is I have a GLP-1 deficiency, and I need to be on GLP-1 medication for that hormone for me. That's my choice. But again, giving the information on this, I think, is fascinating about the off-ramp for people to get off these medications. So this particular Louis Aron, he's an obesity medicine doctor, says studies cost a fortune. That's one of the big reasons why we don't have more scientific data on it. And going over, obesity drugs were not a lucrative market. So companies were not interested in funding the long and expensive trials that follow patients for several years. So many of you have been asking these questions, and I think this Atlantic article today, very, very good information on there. Some of the longest term follow-up data about these drugs come from patients at his practice in Manhattan. Now, if you're getting obesity care treatment in Manhattan, that is a very different demographic than, I'm just going to throw this out there, maybe somebody from rural Mississippi, right? Like, so there's interesting. And it says is not a representative population, which is exactly what as I read that, I was like, that's not a representative population. He admits, and so he admits, when he published a 5-year study, and it was funded by National Institutes of Health. Aron has also received grants and consulting fees from the makers of obesity drugs, right? Which most of them do, right? Because that's how they're getting funding for these as well. I'm going to link in the description link below also that 5-year study on there. I read through the 5-year study, just giving some context on that. And I did not feel comfortable as somebody who is not a healthcare provider, as not a medical person. I can run multi-million-dollar businesses, several of them, but I'm not reading that study. I feel like I would butcher it and not do the service that a professional would with their industry knowledge on there. So going back to The Atlantic article, it breaks this down a little bit more about the best Mounjaro maintenance dose, the best Ozempic maintenance dose, the best WEGOVY maintenance dose. How patients do after switching from GLP-1 to older drugs is entirely anecdotal. But so far, outcomes do seem to vary quite a bit. There's a small minority of patients who stop GLP-1 injections who actually are able to maintain their weight with diet and exercise without any additional medications. So for some of you watching, you may be like, that's going to be me. Others, this is the Atlantic article, and again, the writer of this was Sarah Zhang. She said in her article, others may find that older pills are simply not effective for them. In Rose's experience, about 50 to 60% of her patients have so far successfully kept the weight off using one or more older drugs on top of lifestyle changes such as cutting out fast food, cutting out sugary sodas. And so it goes through and it talks about these different older medications, which I didn't even know of these, which for somebody who's been to the doctor multiple times about chronic obesity management treatment, to not know about these specific older drugs blows my mind. Like, how did my doctor, I went to my primary care doctor, and anyways, that's a topic for another day, but I found this fascinating, and I know if I found it fascinating, you probably did too, because you probably have been to your doctor about specific things and talking about these older medications that have been on the market. The combination of, and I'm going to link this article down below because I may butcher the name of them, is naltrexone and bupropion, for example, make food less pleasurable and seems to only work well in people with a tendency for emotional eating. Why was I not prescribed that previously? Which is blowing my mind. The topiramate, meanwhile, makes carbonated drinks unpleasant, which could help out patients who drink a lot of soda. The older drugs also have different side effects. Aran rattled off for me a list of health risks that may rule out for a particular drug for a particular patient's seizures for the bupropion and glaucoma for the topiramate. I'm butchering those, my apologies. Finding the most effective and most tolerant drug for the patient may go with trial and error. But that, just starting this chronic obesity management conversation of obesity is a disease, why was that not, it blows my mind. Let me keep going back over to this article. So going back over to this about how Aran was saying, Louis Aran was saying, for the first time in my career, we're lowering the doses of medicines. Just reducing the dose doesn't save money though. A lower dose injection pens cost the same as those as higher doses, meaning if, for example, you're on Mounjaro 2.5 milligrams versus Mounjaro 15 milligrams, the price is pretty much the same, relatively speaking. However, going back to the article, however, by instead extending the time in between doses from the standard 7 days longer to a 10-day interval, doctors told me some patients have been able to stretch their supplies, thus lowering the cost that way. So instead of doing it every week, you do it every week and a half, and that's going to extend the supply. By tapering off obesity medications entirely, GLP-1 or otherwise, will probably not be possible for most patients. Weight loss tends to trigger a powerful set of compensatory mechanisms in the body, which evolved long ago to protect us from starvation. The more weight we lose, the more the body's fighting back, and the fight never quite goes away. And most patients will likely require some kind of continued intervention just to stay at a lower weight. Long-term weight maintenance has always been the holy grail of obesity treatment, says Susan Yanvosky, the co-director of the Office of Obesity Research at National Institutes of Health, told me. Susan, I'm going to reach out to you. Miss Yanvosky, she's also a ski. I'm a ski too, a fellow ski to the next ski. The best maintenance strategy, whether it involves GLP-1 drugs and at what dose, may ultimately be pretty individual, which is one of the things we've been talking about all along. People are like, well, why is there not a blanket maintenance program? It's because it's going to vary by individual. I'm going to be doing an article or a piece, another episode on talking about adolescents with GLP-1 medications. And as I was doing research for that upcoming episode and talking about that, about how there's different varies of spectrum for adolescents and teenagers with obesity, chronic obesity management treatment, the same applies for adults. And so if there's different variations on the spectrum of chronic obesity management, which we talked about in the Oprah episode that I was on, when I was on Oprah, they had a very lengthy conversation on that there's different variations of, not everybody has the same obesity components, I guess. And I'm sure science is going to discover more about this for us too, of like my obesity, chronic obesity management treatment, or the chronic obesity I have may very well be different than yours. Yours may be more severe than mine or less than mine. You see what I'm saying? Which is why, which would make sense, why going back over to the Atlantic article and going back to what Miss Susan Yanovansky said of the Office of Obesity Research at NIH, National Institutes of Health, the best maintenance strategy is going to be pretty individual. She goes on to say what works best and for whom still needs to be studied. These are really good research questions, Yanovansky said, but they are not necessarily the questions that pharmaceutical companies focus in on developing new medications are keen to answer, right? Getting people necessarily off the medications that pharmaceutical companies have created. Interesting, right? In time, the current crop of GLP-1 drugs will eventually become available as generics too. The cost may no longer drive patients to seek out cheaper alternatives, but for now, it very much does. Susan Yang, this article is fascinating. So I read the end of it because I wanted to cut to the chase. But going back over here in the article, it also talked about Jamie Ard, an obesity medicine doctor from Wake Forest University School of Medicine, has also switched regimens for patients who lost coverage for GLP-1 drugs after retiring and getting on Medicare, which currently does not pay for any drugs to treat obesity. Like many researchers in the field, Ard has received grants and consulting fees from companies behind obesity drugs, which, sidebar, one of the reasons why I love the Atlantic is they're telling who's getting paid from what, which I think is really, I appreciate that. Jamie Ard says, doctors I spoke with don't know of any studies about switching from GLP-1 drugs to older ones, but Ard says this research is practical necessity in the United States. With GLP-1 medications exploding in popularity, more and more patients are taking them will suddenly lose coverage when they hit retirement age and go on Medicare. Now I've got to figure out, well, how do I treat them, he told me. And then that's where we go into the long-term data on this about studies cost a fortune, and that's where it led to that component of it. But for my Medicare folks and friends, which is why it's interesting of getting these medications like WEGOVY, getting it FDA approved for cardiovascular activities, like how it had the reduction of 20% of strokes, 20% of heart attacks. With that FDA approval, perhaps for my Medicare friends, that's another way to kind of get in the back door, so to speak. Let's go back over. So they're talking in here also in this the Atlantic article too about how doctors are getting forced to be creative for GLP-1 medications. For example, about how North Carolina cut off covering GLP-1 drugs. So people in North Carolina, they were on it and then they're off. So going over here, in April, also lost coverage of North Carolina's health insurance for state employees was abruptly cut off for GLP-1 drugs for obesity. Rose switched her patients to taking older drugs, such as this is the one I butchered before, topiramate, phentermine, metformin, which we've talked about before in my free encouragement group, which I'll link in the description link below, and naltrexone, plus lifestyle counseling. Okay, so we know for people on GLP-1 medications, I have said this the last 16 plus months for me, being on a GLP-1 medication, losing 88 pounds, that of course, making those lifestyle changes. I mean, Eli Lilly tells us for taking GLP-1 medications, we've got to do two important things. One, change our lifestyle with food, and two, change our lifestyle with physical activity. And for me, absolutely, and having lifestyle counseling on that, absolutely. But that lifestyle counseling clearly did not work the last 40 plus years that I didn't really get obese or be on my first diet until I was 10. But with that, I've been on having this lifestyle counseling and things like that. So that somewhat I'm like, okay, that is important. Changing lifestyle components is very important for GLP-1 medications, but I feel like most of us have done it. I know I've ever done every single diet under the sun, and I still was huge, still was 100 plus pounds overweight. And that was with knowing all these, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Atkins, cabbage soup diet, South Beach diet, Mediterranean diet, egg diet, like you name it, I have been on it. I've been on it. Nutrisystem. I mean, all of the product shipments of other frozen foods that I can't even remember the names of. Like I've been on every single diet. So that for me, when going back over here, I know that the doctor's trying to utilize that as a tool, and it absolutely is. But still, at the end of the day, I have, for me, I'll use my own I statements, a GLP-1 deficiency in that hormone, which is why I need a GLP-1 medication to help with that deficiency. That's why a GLP-1 drug is so important, because it's helping with that deficiency. So I found this fascinating. Let me go back over to the beginning of the article too. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, and which we've already talked about, is that 2/3 of people who get off GLP-1 medications gain the weight back within a year. So there's this study done about patients, the food cravings creep back in, and so do the pounds. Within a year of stopping semaglutide, better known as brand names of Wegovy and Ozempic, people regain on average 2/3 of the weight that they lost. Tirzepatide is known as ZEPBOUND or Mounjaro, follow similar patterns. So the conventional medical wisdom now holds that these obesity drugs are meant to be taken indefinitely, possibly for a lifetime. But they cost over $1,000 a month to patients if you're paying out of pocket, and most Americans simply cannot afford that month after month. So they talk about in here also in the Atlantic about what do we do for the short-term investments for 6 months to a year to get 50 pounds off? But it goes back to the holy grail of long-term weight loss management. And so I find that fascinating. That was the article. I've linked it down below. If you're watching this right as I release this video, totally taking a right turn now. Which, by the way, if you want my free resources, I've got a ton. Free encouragement group. It is amazing. Make sure you answer all those questions. Free meal plan. All linked down in the description link below. Click that ... more button, and make sure you click that like and subscribe button for this video too, if you haven't already done so. Switching it over, if you're watching this near Memorial Day weekend, I am so excited. You know, you reach a certain point where you're like, oh my gosh, Lowe's is having fantastic sales, and I had to share them with you. They're going on now as a film date, and these will go until, let me make sure I got the right date that they'll go until. Lowe's has sales that are going until, I'll get the date that I think till like, ends May 27th, 2024. So I wanted to share these with you because I am talking very quickly because I'm so excited, and I will link these all down in the YouTube shopping link down below as well. They have $2 mulch that you can order online right now. And then you can do order online and then pick up at your local Lowe's if you're US based. I know we've got some of our international friends, but US based, pick up at the local Lowe's, or you can get it shipped to you. $2 bags of mulch. This is like their big sale. Like this is like the Black Friday sale of the spring for Lowe's. Like this is huge. And not GLP-1 related at all, but simply out of my own excitement. Look, it ends May 29th, 2024 for the $2 bags of mulch. Now, this is the best seller over here, this one. It's not on sale, but this is the one that's on sale. It's from Scott's. It's from Scott's. So I'm very excited for my $2 bags of mulch. I think it's buy 5 bags, get it for 10 bucks. That's how it makes it $2. So that's this one. One deal from Lowe's that I'm really excited about. Excuse me, the next one is this umbrella. It's a 7.5 foot umbrella. Normally 50 bucks, it's $49. Save $29. Save $29. Save $20. It costs only $29 for this umbrella for your outdoor thing. Because I know you guys, I'll speak for myself. We're doing a ton of stuff outside this year. Like my patio, I'm going to be grilling out there a ton of ZEPBOUND meals, Mounjaro meals, and I don't want to be in my house anymore. I want to be outside. So I saw that little umbrella. I'm like, yes. That was on my like Lowe's shopping list here too. Let me go over to. These are 50% off for the LED outdoor pathway lights. Yes, so I'm linking these all down below so you guys can see my shopping list. We bought a new grill that was on sale. I'm obsessed with our grill. I'll link that one down below. But washing machines, did you know appliances? It's like one of the best times of year to buy appliances. This washing machine, it's $200 off. And same thing with refrigerators. Let me go back up. Refrigerators are also on sale, $1,000 off this refrigerator. So like when I was going through the Lowe's sales, I was like, I have to tell all my friends, yes, I'm incredibly excited about my GLP-1 stuff, but I do have to talk about the Lowe's Memorial Day sale because I'm getting a ton of stuff. We're just updating a bunch of things. We bought a pressure washer, obsessed. We're gonna be doing some outdoor projects with that pressure washer. Here is also the leaf blower. Like, these are great sales. And then the outdoor gazebo, it's $730 off. So anyways, I'm gonna link down below a bunch of the appliances that are on sale, the bigger stuff and the smaller stuff. But $2 bags of mulch, yes. Yes, we're going to do that. We're absolutely going to do that. So we do a little thing here at Countess of Shopping. It helps me to get to know you better. There's thousands of you and there's only one of me. Oh, one more thing. Here, they also have sinks, bathroom sink faucets on sale. Those are on sale too. But here's my $2 bag of mulch. I'm stoked about that. We do a little thing here at Countess of Shopping. If you've made it this far in the video, today's emoji is going to be a tree. It lets me know that you've made it this far in the video. And one, it helps me to get to know you better. And two, I will pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, I'll uplift you in positive thought. So today's emoji is going to be a tree. Hence the Lowe's theme. These deals I'm really pumped for. It's been amazing how much my life has changed of being on GLP-1 medication, being morbidly obese. I never wanted to do like outdoor gardening, cutesy things outside. And now I'm like, yes, let's do it. Let's get $2 bags of mulch and put mulch down. I'm so excited. And they're bagged too. And again, don't forget, for all of these, you can order online and pick it up at your local Lowe's with the ordering down below, or you can just order it and have it shipped to you. So whichever makes the best sense for you, but make sure you're using the link down below helps the channel here too. It helps. It's in one of the affiliate links here at Countess of Shopping. Make sure to get all of my free stuff linked down below for Mounjaro, ZEPBOUND. I've got a ton of free resources for you too. And click that like and subscribe button. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. Oh, and I forgot to ask you, what are you doing today to move you closer to your goal? For me, I'm going to be sweating outside. That's on my goal list. That's on my goal list. Okay, friends, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye, guys.